Hola y saludos a todo el mundo. Ya pueden ver que voy a hacer algo un poco diferente en este video y lo diferente será que voy a hablarles un poco, pero muy poquito en español, nada más para que puedan ver que es posible aprender otro idioma. En este caso, el idioma es español. En mi caso, yo empecé a aprender el español en mi niñez cuando tenía más o menos 11, 12 años. Cogí clases en la primaria, seguí a través del colegio y también yo cogía muchas clases de español en la universidad. Aparte de eso, yo he viajado a bastantes países diferentes donde se habla español o países hispanohablantes. Por ejemplo, ahora mismo yo vivo aquí en Puerto Rico y yo he ido a la República Dominicana, Cuba y Panamá. Y este verano yo pasaba un poco de tiempo en Madrid, en España. Entonces, bueno, nada más quiero que sepan que estoy aquí en Puerto Rico, pero no solo como turista. Yo me he involucrado en la cultura, los costumbres y también en el lenguaje del mundo hispanohablante. Y pues nada, ahora voy a cambiar en inglés porque quiero hablarles y darles un poco de consejos para que puedan también aprender otro idioma. Vamos. Okay, so I hope that you all enjoyed that. Extra bonus points for anyone who can guess where my accent is from. Now, for some of you, it's going to be pretty easy because you know my story, you know where I am, you know where I'm recording from, but de todos modos, intentan adivinar el acento mío que tengo. So now in English, I just want to talk to you about different ways that you can learn another language. And I actually want to talk about two different ways. So the first way is how I learned. I actually went to school. I had a double major in Spanish and economics. So I have many, many years studying Spanish, the grammar rules, going back and forth to different Spanish-speaking countries. I mean, I have had some pretty deep involvement, and in fact, I always contend that my Spanish should be much better than it is for so much time that I've had practicing and studying. And then the other way, so that's one way to do it very academically, to learn how the grammar works, the vocabulary in a really studious academic manner. In fact, I would say that my written Spanish and also reading Spanish was much more developed way before I started speaking Spanish. I've been in Puerto Rico for the last year and a half, and I will say that this last stint here obviously has catapulted my Spanish into like another realm. So I'm really thankful for that, but it's been more or less years and years and years. I don't want to tell myself on how old I am, but many years. But it doesn't have to take that long. And that's I'm making this video because I'm actually studying another language. Yes, I am trying to learn French, or I'm in the process of learning French, and I'm taking a whole different route this time around. And I would like to say that I feel like I am advancing much faster than what happened with my Spanish, and that's where these tips are going to come from. So if you want the fastest, most efficient way to learn a language, I'm going to give you these tips after I actually try both ways. Spanish, learning academically over extended period years, and then French. And I can say that my French is actually Frenching because I spent some time in Paris this summer and was able to get around the city even when I encountered people who spoke limited or no English at all. And before I jump into the tips, do you want a taste of my French? I'm going to give it to you anyway. So I will say, because I'm still really in the baby beginning phases, bonjour, je m'appelle Aja et j'habite en Uni qui s'appelle Puerto Rico. Je suis écrivaine et je suis en train d'apprendre le français. So that is one of my phrases that probably sounds really good because I practiced it so many times. Basically said, my name is Aja, I live in an island called Puerto Rico, I'm a writer, and I'm in the process of learning French. So without further ado, this is what I would suggest. This is how I'm doing with French. Number one is you want to immerse yourself in the language as much as possible. I actually turned my phone, I adjusted this, I changed the settings on my phone and put everything in French so that every day I'm seeing French. Also, this is like a bonus tip. If you change your phone to the language that your target language, Siri is available in that language. And I'm going to tell you, it took me about 3 weeks before Siri could understand anything from me in French, but it was well worth the effort. So that's just something that you can do. Practice asking what is today's date, what's the weather like, ask how many people are in the world's population, just different questions that you can ask Siri, but in your target language. So immerse yourself. The next thing I would say is used to listening. And so that's actually what I'm doing right now. I just spend a lot of time watching YouTube videos, topics of interest like travel, gastronomy, what else? And then also, so I listen to those things for fun, religious topics. And then I also set aside part of my listening to listen to grammar and vocabulary lessons, but in French. So I'm not saying that you don't pay attention to any grammar, vocabulary, any of the rules, but if you decide to do that, do it in the target language. And that probably represents about 10% of what I watch and listen to. I even found there's something called C-Cube Academy. I don't know if they only do French, but they have a lot of these situational cartoons, and it's really slow French. And also while you're watching YouTube or watching videos, listening to podcasts, you should have the option to slow it down. So sometimes I'll be watching something that is not meant to be instructional. Maybe they're talking about the rise of discount warehouse clubs in France, and that's obviously not going to be slow. That's just going to be quotidian culture, just regular jargon and everything. So sometimes I'll slow that down. So that's one way to get your listening skills up to par. Put on subtitles, also a huge help. And the next thing I would suggest is that you have conversation partners. And you might be thinking, okay, how are you in Puerto Rico talking to people who speak French? I'll tell you, there are some apps available that connect you with people in other countries that are willing to teach you their native language in exchange for learning English. So if you're an English speaker watching this, you have got a good chance of learning pretty much any language of choice all around the world, because pretty much everyone wants to learn English. I am a huge fan of HelloTalk because it's free and there's some premium features that you can buy, but I like it because you can connect with people directly. And if you're not into that, because you can get if you're not careful, you can get some weird interactions. If you don't like the idea of connecting with people, there are chat rooms where you can hear a lot of conversational dialogues in your target language. So I'm a huge fan of HelloTalk, and I'll put some links down below to some of these resources and ideas and things that I'm mentioning for you. I would also say set up your social media so that when you're spending time scrolling, do it in your target language. So for example, I have what I call my Frenchstagram, and it's just a bunch of accounts that are in French, and again, some instructional French with vocabulary, grammar, things of that nature, and then just things I'm interested in, like tourism tips, travel, gastronomy, even a little bit of exercise stuff. So turn your mindless scrolling time into your French consumption or your target language consumption time. So that's been a huge help. The other thing I would say is, if you have time, I don't think it's 100% necessary, but if you can, take some one-on-one lessons, maybe something that you pay for, because if you're like me, something that you pay for, it means something to you, it has some value, so you're probably more likely to use it and show up for it. So I would say when you get to that stage, you know that you're serious. I personally have not yet paid for French lessons, but it's on my to-do list because I feel pretty good about the progress I'm making so far. And I think this will be the last tip. Let me go. We're tagged onto the other tip. Even if you don't pay for lessons, think about paying for other services. Like Duolingo has a lot of free features, but if you go on and pay, you can get some enhanced things. You can try Rosetta Stone. So if you don't have time for one-on-one, or you think you're not ready for that, you could use some of the apps and different computer programs to help you learn a language. And now I'm to the final language, or the final tip for learning language, is that you should visit the countries or places where your target language is spoken. So as I mentioned, I spent some time in Paris this summer. I have some plans to check out Belgium, Martinique, some of the French-speaking Caribbean islands, because I want to practice my target language, which is French in this case. So I think that when you spend time doing that, it's going to really enhance your language skills. And I want to let you know that even somebody who is you're older, they say you can learn language better as a child, but you can still learn as an adult. So as an adult who is still learning, I'm still learning Spanish, I still say that. And I'm also learning French. It is definitely possible to learn a language well into adulthood if you follow some of these tips. So let me know if you've done some of these things or you're looking forward to trying them out, and let me know how it goes for you down below in the comments. Thanks for joining me today, guys. Appreciate it.